welcome to workshop 2 of a 3-part series about podcasting, everything you need to know about it, whether you're an experienced or new podcaster, including what to say, when to edit, how to edit, and about AI. So today we're going to be talking about the editing and AI side. I'm Lesley Kaplan, founder of the Israel Networking Hub, and this series is brought to you in a partnership between the Israel Networking Hub and the amazing Israel Story, the world's most Jewish listened to podcast, and none other than the even more amazing COO and managing producer, Zev Levi. So today, whether you're joining live or whether you're watching the recording, enjoy. We're going to have lots of interesting information for you to benefit you. For anyone who would like to open up their mic and just comment on anything that they learned from last time, something that they've started applying, something that they have not yet started applying, but they plan on using it for future podcasts. If you'd like to open up the floor, I'm going to actually take off my spotlight now. And if anyone would anyone like to say something? I'll replace you with me. If you'd like to comment on something that you either learned, feel free. I didn't give you any prep time to say that, so you're welcome to think about it. We can always ask you later. Anyone would like to say something?
I'd like to say something.
Sure. Let me spotlight you, Freddie. Okay.
Hi. I just wanted to mention that this business about drilling down on your audience really resonated with me, and over the past week, I've been. It's not so easy to figure it out. In fact, I went to YouTube and Spotify, my platforms, and according to them, I only get people over 75 from Israel, which I know is not true. Okay, so all of a sudden, I can't rely on them to help me at all. Anyway, that was my thing.
That's an interesting observation.
Say a little about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a really, really amazing point. God, it's probably now like 5-6 years ago. There was a big controversy over Apple's decision, right? Up until 6 years ago, Apple kind of led the way, but it was all companies as well. The default was to opt in to sharing your information. So your phone knows something about you by the apps you use, the time you use them, where you go, it tracks you. Your phone is constantly gathering information on you. And up until 5 years ago, by default, all applications that you had on your phone, and sometimes even logged in on your computer, but with the same account, would share those with any apps that kind of asked. So YouTube on your computer asks your phone, hey, how old is this person? Or, hey, what time of day does this person wake up, typically? And so Apple 5 years ago decided, you know what, I'm going to switch the default. And now, if you want to give your information to the application, you need to go into settings and choose to give them that. But the default is no, don't give them that information, which meant, as you have experienced, that anytime you click on an application to say like, hey, tell me about who my listeners are or tell me the details, you're getting a very partial image of what's actually happening, because the only people that is delivering that information are either people who have been listening since before 5 years ago and therefore already had that setting of giving the information over, or people who have started like listening on that application in the past 5 years, but for whatever reason have gone into settings and chosen to give their personal information to this application. So you're absolutely right. Any statistics that you get on the identity of your listeners is to be taken with a lot of pinches of salt. The thing that you can relatively rely on is numbers, right? The application can track how many times every upload is downloaded or listened to. But who the people are, it's no longer reliably clear. In my personal opinion, I think that's makes for a better world. I would rather know less about my listeners and live in a world where applications aren't like constantly getting what my favorite breakfast food is. But that's everyone can decide for themselves if they think that's good or bad. But that is something to keep in mind when you look at statistics.
So, just a quick question for you then. Excuse me. When I look at my subscribers, so they fall into two categories. One who I can see who they are,
Yep.
and the other who I can't. So let's say I have 50 subscribers, 25 I can actually see who they are. I don't recall ever, like when I subscribe to something, being given a choice.
Yeah.
How is it that that is the case, that some are anonymous and some are the opposite of anonymous?
So that's exactly it. Either in your person, I'm assuming we're talking about YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
So in your YouTube settings, if you go into YouTube, log in as your account and go into the settings, if you were a member before, again, I don't remember the date, but let's say before 2020, the default would have been, yeah, show me to whoever, show me
A
to
member of
whoever.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Got it.
And then it might still be the case that like I don't mind you seeing my name, but I don't want you to know my gender, my age, my residential address, any of that stuff. And so it's possible that people that are anonymous have gone into settings and have just clicked, no, I don't want anyone to know any information about me. And it's possible that all those people just joined YouTube after this date where the default became opt out rather than opt in.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Right. All right,
Susan has
yeah.
a question.
Can you hear me? Actually, on that point, I'm a Peter Drucker devotee, and he honed in on know your target audience. Make sure that you know what they eat, what they drink. And so that, in switching to a podcast format, I mean, my whole thing with webinars is that I feel like I'm talking to myself in cyberspace.
Yeah.
And so it's the same in my concern about then on this statistic point, if you want to judge who is that target audience, then, and people are not inclined to fill out surveys because they get, it's too much of a hassle. So then how do you then take this and make some judgments on your programming?
It's a really, really good question. Israel Story does go with the survey route, and we try and make a survey like as few clicks as possible, which for Israel Story means 60 clicks, which is way too many clicks, but that's the decision our team has gone in, which means that we have, tens of thousands of listeners every episode and only hundreds of responses. So a few things. The first is if you're using your podcast as a tool to engage in other ways. So if you have active social media accounts or regular live meetings where you can just like show of hands, I'd love to get this information. Who can help me out with, whatever questions you're asking, and you can engage in that way. You're absolutely right that the webinar and podcasts are talking into cyberspace, and the kind of hook that or like kind of our best bet is to, as a creator, appeal to the individuals. So I'm sure you've all heard millions of times where the host of a show or a social media like content creator will say, guys, I know this is boring, and I know you don't want to, answer this survey or text me a message and say the answers to my questions, but I love you and you love me and we're so close and please just do it anyway. And so the vast majority of reliable engagement is in action. So you can do things like, hey, I'm going to release the same episode twice, and if you are a night owl, please only listen to the second episode. And if you are a morning person, please only listen to the first episode. And that way, the statistics, like, they literally don't have to do anything, and you get some information, but it's always unclear how reliable the information is. And it's always a subset of listeners, followers, your audience, who are going to participate in that dialogue. The algorithms favor people who are, or creators who are segueing everything into another thing. So for whatever reason, the algorithms will push your content further if you not only want them to listen to this episode, but also buy your book. And the algorithm sees that as like, this person long-term wants to engage their audience via my platform, and I want my platform to be used on 100% of phones 100% of the time. And therefore, it's in my interest to push this person's content because they have more of a strategy than just right now, or this episode. But you're absolutely right that with an online audience, the best we can do is kind of attempt to get responses and kind of take everything with a pinch of salt, take all the responses as representative or not of our entire audience.
I see Daniela has a question. I'm going to spotlight you, Daniela.
Thank you. First
Good
of all,
morning.
Good morning. About that, if we're content providers, for example, with this Dating Smarter podcast, I set up a couple yesterday, so I was rah-rah and set up my first couple for the week. Very exciting. And then I actually did it in a video where I said, and that's so exciting. I just filmed my next Dating Smarter podcast, and I have a dating roundtable, and I was that. But then how do you become that person, what you just described, where the algorithm goes up higher if you want to push out a Dating Smarter podcast, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to, it's not buy the book yet, but it's, I just want to know what strategy I could use.
I mean, AI is scanning the text of all of our uploads. So if we upload an audio or a video to social media or just an audio podcast, the platforms are aware of the words being said. They will get a transcription, and depending on how successful like the next step is, they'll be able to say like, oh, this person kind of has a strategy and therefore I want to push them. But also sharing links, right? So on Instagram, ending every episode, every post with the same picture of like, here is the picture of my podcast. This is what the logo is. And the link is in my bio. Go and click it. The platforms are checking, who clicks what after seeing what from what platform. Like they're keeping track of their users' activity, again, because they want their users to have this open on their phone 100% of the time. They're trying to be all of our lives.
So if it's not about, let's say I didn't do that video where I'm describing that I also have my Dating Smarter podcast, but it's a different post that I posted, can I also put the links in the bio?
Yeah. So
it's not like too much.
No, the algorithm understands if somebody is selling a book or pushing a podcast or whatever it is, if every post that is related in some way has that link, then the algorithm clocks, this person has a strategy. This person is using us long term. This person is like trying to get their audience on board, and we want engaged audiences.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. And I just want to add that it did help me to hear your mindset about dating smarter versus, let's say, thinking it should always be living smarter. You know what I mean? Like to have the
Sure.
confirmation, I think helped me, my mindset when I filmed this most recent one yesterday. And even though I mentioned it, I said, yeah, this is really for everyone, is living smarter, but this is all about the daters, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a good mindset. Thank you.
Amazing. I'm so glad.
Right. I just want to say one thing based on what we discussed before, and then we'll move forward if we don't have any further questions, is that I believe that we all know at least 80% who our target market is, because forget the podcast business and anything else, but going into business, we need to know that's the first basic thing, who our target market is. If not, then we're not operating correctly. So even though we would like to have more definite statistics, according to what we've just discussed before about exactly who and where and what age, but Bagadol, on the large, we do know, I believe, who our target market is. So that is super important. And the other thing is, what Susan was saying about with the podcast versus cyberspace and not knowing who we're talking to, is that the difference, as you mentioned before, Zev, is that, yes, on the one hand, we can't see or even know who our listeners or our viewers are. That being said, this is a more intimate experience because you're either in their ear or it's one-on-one. It's not like on a webinar or any other platform or Zoom meeting where you're a lot of people at once. So that, I believe, is the difference, that we can talk to them more individually as a singular rather than in a plural form.
I will share that separate to my professional operations and work, I am a nerd, and I like in my spare time to kind of engage in, nerdy culture. And what I'm finding interesting, because I go through the same process, right? Like, who am I? Who's my target audience? What do they want? What are they getting only from me? And I've always had an issue making my Judaism one of, even though it's important to me as a person, I feel like odd about cashing in on it in my nerddom. My nerddom doesn't have anything to do with my Judaism, but I'm facing the question of like, well, do I market myself? Do I try and push to Jewish nerds or Israeli nerds, or like try and compete with all nerds everywhere? Which is obviously going to be a lot harder for me to like find my market, find my niche that particularly I resonate with them, and their identity speaks to what I am interested in selling. And something interesting is, again, so Instagram can tell you most of your followers, they're online at these times, and they're like registered as coming from these countries. And so I've noticed that the majority of my of people who are consuming my content are based in America, and therefore the time that I upload my content is based on when they're online. But I'm not changing my target market. Where I'd love to be more, I'd love my audience to be Israeli, because that's where I am, and I feel like that's stronger. And so it's this interesting situation where I'm creating content primarily for an audience that I imagine is in Israel, but I'm uploading it at times that suit the people who are actually showing up, which are Americans. And so that's the only difference there, is like the type of content that I'm creating versus making it as accessible to the people who are already showing up. And I feel like that is helpful in terms of I'm still going in my content creation kind of vision and path, but I am adjusting to, well, this is resonating with these people, so I'm going to not make it harder for them to come in. I want to be as welcoming as possible to everyone while continuing with my vision for my audience.
So can I ask
Well, funny you say that. That was one of the debates also about the timing of this session, because we've got people in the States that have signed up that anything that we have in the mornings in Israel time obviously is not appropriate for those in the US in our morning time.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that, Zev?
Please.
The fact that you have in both time zones, is it something that you can post more than once a day? And meaning, I know you're not supposed to overdo everything, because then it seems like too much, spammy. But so that's my question is, like, what's the right answer?
I don't know if I buy into don't post too much. I think that if you're able to, like Gary Vaynerchuk, for anyone who doesn't know, I strongly recommend following Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V, as he's sometimes known as well. Entrepreneur, business person, social media, on social media, he kind of spouts his wisdoms, and he says you should be posting 7 times a day on every platform. And it feels like spam when it's not valuable, when it's just waffling. But if you have 7 pieces of relevant, interesting, helpful content every day, come at me. Let's go. And
okay, so that's a different question, though. But like, the Dating Smarter podcast, how many times could I post it? I do have other content that I put out. So
no. I mean, if you have 7 things every day that are unique to the Dating Smarter podcast and to that target audience, that audience doesn't mind like seeing you pop up more often. So if it is,
right, in other words, not repeating the same content, but different content. That's the issue here.
Not only different content, but give them something. Give them something like the post can't be, hey, listen to my podcast. The post has to be some sort of hook. The post has to be a crazy story, or a horror story, or a tip, or something like that. Something that they can consume, benefit from, and immediately say, I want more. And if you have 7 helpful things to give them every day about the Dating Smarter podcast, then give them those things on social media. And after each one of those 7 in that post, say, you want more? This is my podcast. Amazing. Does that make sense? That the post itself? Yeah.
And like the hook could be something that's in the podcast, like,
absolutely. I
imagine that, like that kind of hook. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we're going to move on with today's topic. All right. And of course, we can ask questions throughout too, and Zev will give us opportunities to ask. Zev, take it away. Let's deal with that topic of the day.
Great. Let's have a look at this. You should be sharing you should be seeing my screen. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Amazing. So today I want to talk about editing and AI shaping the story. The things that we're going to talk about are what to listen for while editing, common editing mistakes, and the tools that are available to make editing easy. AI has made it hasn't yet replaced me as somebody who works with as an audio editor, but it's pretty close. And we're a couple of years away from that. And it's very, very easy for people to edit. I was talking to Lesley before about up to 75% of the quality of a human editor with AI quickly by themselves, not knowing any audio editing tools beforehand. So I'm going to get stuck into that as well. So the first thing is, again, I apologize for sounding like a broken record, but everything comes down to this in terms of what makes for a strong episode, in terms of what to think about before you hit record, and in terms of what to cut out after you record. Go through and I'm a person who writes things down, so I will write down on a piece of paper for every episode. My target audience is X. They're looking for Y. What makes my brand identity unique is Z. That's the potential Jewish or spiritual or religious kind of nerd sector that I'm personally speaking to. And what makes this episode unique from all my other episodes. Again, I don't want to tell the same story with different details. The big question of this episode is whatever it is. And knowing these 3 things, I'll be able to have a much clearer path forward in terms of what to edit, what to take out, right? If this is everything from a recorded conversation to a single person's like vlog post, a solo podcast. Two, if you're writing a script and then just reading out that script and you're not just kind of speaking off the cuff, it helps to edit to know these three things. The first thing is, as opposed to how I'm communicating with you now, repetition for the vast majority of the time in podcasts is bad. It makes your listener feel like you don't respect them because you said something. You said, let's have an example like Daniela on a first date. What is the most important thing that people need to keep in mind as they talk about?
To ask questions and to express themselves.
Okay, great. Ask questions and express yourself. Amazing. I would say that in a podcast where you say that, I think that you need to say that maximum 3 times. That is right at the beginning. It's very important to ask questions and express yourself. Say it again immediately so that whoever's like daydreaming isn't with you. Again, I'll repeat that. Ask questions and express yourself, and then have the whole podcast. And at the end, again, say just a quick reminder, if you take one thing away from this episode, on your next date, I want you to ask questions and express yourself. If you give that advice, not in those words, if you use other words to say the same thing more than that, the listener feels like, I'm not an idiot. Why are you telling me the same thing so many times? Or do you not have anything else to say? Like, we get it. We're there. So other than making sure they've heard what you have to say, edit out repetition. Again, that's different from what I'm doing right now, because in a webinar, in a live conversation or communication, that's not the social norm. The norm isn't, I'm here to take something from you. The norm is to express yourself where there's more repetition. Okay?
But you're saying to do the 3 times.
Correct. 3 times. But if I say it 7 times in 20 minutes, other than the first 2 and the last one, get them out of there. Look, we understand. Your listener needs to feel respected. And
a quick
repetition.
question on that, Zev. If there's
Please.
a sponsorship,
Yes.
is it okay to mention it in the beginning and at the end if it's really a very quick thing, like one sentence, or should it only be mentioned once?
That's a really good question. It's a really good point to bring up. When I say edit out for clarity, repetition, and all of these things, what I'm talking about specifically is the information that you are giving them, the content that they are there for. So it's very normal to have ads and to have the same ad at the beginning or the middle or the end or some mixture of those. It's very normal to have that throughout the piece. But in terms of repetition and clarity, what I mean to say is that they're there for a range of reasons. They're there because they identify with the brand that you are putting out there. And they're also there for tips, for like to learn something, to take something away. That's the repetition that you need to be careful with, because repeating it too many times make them feel disrespected. There's a chance that just in the amount of times that I've made this point, some of you are getting like, okay, we get it. Let's go. But because you can see my face and because this is more of an interactive platform than a podcast, it's somewhat more acceptable. Okay.
And important, I think, as well. That
Totally.
You're repeating this. You're showing us how important it is.
Oh, you're very kind. Terrific. So I'll the things to repetition, edit out repetition. Amazing. I want to continue to share. Okay. About respecting the audience and what to edit out. I'm assuming most people have heard of what a straw man argument is. Yes, no? No. Amazing. I'll get into it. For those who already know, it'll take a minute. You'll be fine. Here's a quick refresher. A straw man argument is when you're trying to make a point against somebody else, and the way that you pick apart the argument that you disagree with is to make it so extreme or take it to such a bizarre extent that it doesn't make sense anymore, right? Nobody who actually believes, let's say, there should be higher taxes, right? Nobody who actually believes there should be higher taxes thinks, yes, it's worthwhile for people to starve because everyone needs to pay 70% of their tax, right? That's a straw man argument, because the thing that I'm arguing with in order to like make my point isn't a valid belief, isn't a good representation of the people who actually believe the thing I'm arguing with. Okay, that is a straw man argument, the opposite of which is a steel man argument. So when I'm arguing about taxes, or not even arguing, when I'm discussing taxes on my podcast, either with a partner or solo, they can say something that I can pick apart because of their phrasing. They can say, look, everyone needs to pay 70% taxes. And I can make my whole point. Like, what? You think poor people and starving people should pay 70%? Right? The listener, I would argue, sees through that and thinks that's dumb. In order to respect make the listener feel respected, you need to take the best possible representation of what you disagree with and say why you disagree with it. Okay? So again, when editing, I would take out the I'll give you an example. I did a documentary once about a friend of mine who grew up gay in the religious community. And his mother was always very supportive of him. And his mother said something so strange in our interview that I could have made a big deal out of, but it wouldn't have served my purpose. And it was just poking holes at her rather than the idea that she represented. She said there are scans about babies' brains, and it happens to be that you can tell the gender of a baby by the scan of their brain. And basically gay people have the brains of the opposite gender in their heads. And I'm like, science doesn't back that up at all. What are you saying? That is a wild, what are we even talking about here? And she was trying to say, my son has a girl's brain, and that's why he's gay. That does not help with the story of his life. It is a reason why she supports him. She's like, look, this isn't a choice. That's his brain. That's what it is. And I edited out that whole thing because that was not a good representation of a mother's support, right? It might have been interesting, but it wasn't relevant, which brings us to our third point. Knowing those three things at the top, especially the big question of this episode is you are going to come across in a conversation, you are going to come across stuff that is interesting but not relevant. I think that you should edit out what is interesting but not relevant, because at some stage your listener is thinking, that's nice. I'm glad I know that, but what are we even talking about? If your listener is ever listening to your podcast and has to say themselves, what are we even talking about? Something has gone wrong. I
have a question about that.
Please jump
in. I feel like when that happens, naturally in the course of a conversation.
Yes.
On the one hand, I totally understand what you're saying, and you want to be true to your, to your brand and your message. On the
Yep.
other hand, depending on the topic, that side point, it could really show like an interesting tidbit and
Yep.
personality and authenticity. So where do
Absolutely.
you draw the line?
I'll tell you exactly where I draw the line. I draw the line at those three things. My target audience is X. They're looking for Y. The unique thing that I have is this. If the interesting tidbit doesn't have to do with the big question, if it doesn't have to do with who my audience is and what they're looking for and my unique voice, then I take it out and I'll use it somewhere. That'll be a social media post that I'll put up somewhere as some kind of hook to get people interested. Like, it is an interesting tidbit. But if I'm running a podcast about how to be a religious Jew in Israel today, and I'm speaking to someone, and my audience are people who are thinking about becoming religious, and my speaker says, it is crazy how airplanes work, and then just has a 5-minute rant explaining the aerodynamics of airplanes. I'm not going to include that in that podcast.
Okay.
I might use it somewhere, but it doesn't fit into why people are clicking over. People are not clicking over just to spend time. They're
Yeah.
clicking.
Are you saying though, I just want to understand,
Please.
because it sounds like what you're describing is pretty time consuming. And I'm wondering, I mean, I think it's awesome and like really strong what you're saying in terms of, developing our podcast, but is this something that starts to come naturally to you that you're doing intuitively? Or are you like gathering your team together and having a conversation with somebody trying to analyze the extent of how much it fits in?
Definitely number one. Definitely number one.
Intuitive.
Yes.
Okay.
There's you know what? This is really, really relevant. Thank you for that question. Because I think I might have said last week or at some stage, I have said before in my life, so I apologize if people here have heard this before. The human brain can either be in creative mode or in editing mode. It cannot do both at the same time. So while you're having a conversation and you're in creative mode and you're thinking, you don't need to be thinking, is this relevant to my audience? Just have the conversation as it goes. But in editing, and we'll get to the tools in a moment, in editing, the mindset is, okay, I'm a listener now. I have never, I don't know where this conversation is going to go, and I'm just interested in whatever your audience is interested in learning. Is this relevant to me? Do I want to hear this? And
so Zeb, it's interesting you saying that, because I had that incident actually for the first time in a recent podcast that I just uploaded, where I edited a small section out, not just editing mistakes or eyes or anything. I edited a small section out about an interview where someone was giving her own opinion, a biased opinion, and I didn't agree with the opinion, and I believe that most of my viewers did not agree with it either. Now, if it was just me, but I believe that there was a good following that did agree with it, I would have left it in. But it was the first time actually in more than 2 years of podcasts that I had to actually edit out an actual section. Look, remember, a lot of my years had been live, so I couldn't, people heard it live, but I could have edited it out later. But it was the first time that I actually had to do that, because I believed that it was her total opinion bias, which was not relevant to my audience.
Awesome. And I'll raise this, that again, I was planning on only speaking about later in the session, but when we're talking about editing, every person who creates content needs to have the conversation with themselves about what their approach to journalism is. So I can misrepresent someone by taking out their political opinion because it's easier for my audience, because I don't want to offend their identity. Or I can realize we're talking about learning Torah. Your personal political opinion about how airplanes fly is completely irrelevant, in which case the reason I'm not sharing this with my audience is not that it would, get me in hot water or offend me, but rather it's not relevant. And those are, both are, you can take out whatever you want. You are the bosses of your podcast. You have the power to represent whoever comes into your podcast, however you like. Have an honest and deep conversation about yourself, about what you owe to your guests when they say something that is relevant, but is in the face of your that flies in the face of the identity of your brand. Which it sounds like, Lesley, that was not the case. It was both offensive to the identity of your brand and irrelevant. But
it was kind of belittling as well. Quite
absolutely.
Belittling. It kind of belittled the audience, and I felt that was not appropriate.
Great. Again, people are listening because they identify with the values that you're putting out there. And as we said last week, Stephen Bartlett on his Diary of a CEO podcast asked the question, should we force women to have babies with men? Should we? He didn't say we should. He asked the question. Just in asking the question, his listenership shifted. He became very controversial. He might have done that intentionally because he wants more angry, lonely men in his audience. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they buy things. I don't know. You can be very cynical about audience manipulation here, but in the conversation about editing, you do need to decide what your boundaries are. Is this relevant? Is it offensive to, or is it like offensive / antithetical to the brand that I'm putting out there? And am I doing justice to my interviewee? So one thing that we have found comes in very, very handy is when editing somebody else and representing them to your audience, how would you feel pressing play on the episode with that person listening right next to you? If you would feel awkward about how you've edited or represented them, that's a pretty clear sign that they don't think that you did a good job representing them. Now, you don't have to, the goal is not to make sure that your interviewees always like how you've represented them. It's your job to be faithful to your experience. And if you experience them as whatever, then feel free to represent them that way. But we're giving somebody a microphone, we're giving somebody a platform, and therefore in editing, what we're trying to do is condense their point for our listeners and not misrepresent them. I have family and a lot of friends who politically are very, very different from me, but we're all human beings, and therefore in our conversations, I have the power to, in our recorded conversations, I should say, in our interviews, I have the power to take this sentence and that sentence and that sentence and make them look like a monster. I have no interest in doing that because that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to polarize. I'm here to represent again, this is a steel man argument. The best version of their argument isn't necessarily always made by the words they use in that moment, right? It is a minefield and it is a rabbit hole of okay, he said this, but I know he meant something. Clarify and double check. Again, the litmus test is, how would you feel pressing play with them standing next to you? If you think that they are represented fairly, then you should have no issue with them listening to it. Does that make sense? Do we have anything else on this?
Yep, I think we can move on.
Amazing. Terrific. Okay. The next thing that I have here, I'm not even going to share my screen right now because I'm sure we'll get stuck into it, but length, right? Pacing. Things to keep an eye out for while editing includes, Forgive me for this. I don't know if I just watched a lot of television as a child, but it drove me insane that daytime TV in Australia in, I don't know, the mid-90s, whenever I was a kid homesick watching TV, would have about 5 minutes of content, and they would find a way to put 5 minutes of content in 45 minutes of programming. And they would ask one question every 5 minutes that made you feel, oh, they have something here, but they're just repeating themselves. They're not giving me the story. They're not actually telling me what happened, right? Before Netflix, this is how a lot of true crime documentaries were made, right? What happened to James? You could tell us now. You don't need to, right? And so if it's the case that you are having an interview or a conversation and a person is not getting to the point, while you're editing, take the time to say, like, we didn't need to separate the question and the answer by 15 minutes. We can have the question, a paragraph, the answer, move on. Do not be afraid of shorter episodes if the listener feels engaged.
But the idea is keeping them engaged all the time, not trying to fill that specific 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever you allocate.
Yeah. You know what? This conversation has made me realize why respecting the listener is such a big deal for me. It's that. I felt profound. I was a 9-year-old homesick from school with a cold watching What Happened to James on daytime TV. I felt profoundly disrespected, and I didn't have an option to do something else. I had 4 channels. I was sick. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything else. We live in a world where people can change the channel, switch to something else, whatever it is. Like, gone are the days where you have your listener and can just, like, you know, play with them like marbles. Give them what they want. Give them content. I will calm down now. The last thing that I've got on my list here of what to listen for while editing is the emotional flow. Okay? Again, your goal, let's assume that you have the conversation or you record solo, and that takes you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. My recommendation is to listen through once and make your edits and then be able to hit release, right? You don't need to do it more than that. You can. It'll get incrementally better, but I think, like, it gets to 65, 70% of a finished product after your first draft. And for busy people, like, I would argue that's enough. So the emotional flow, if you've got a story or someone is, like, taking you through a particular experience, even if it's incredibly high intensity and impactful, if it's just a series of really intense moment and really intense moment, and then there was a bomb, and then, you know, the kidnappers are inside the building, and then the president calls, and then whatever it is, if it's the same, people get, or your listener gets bored, gets tired of it. Like, I have never watched the show 24, but the concept is this spy is just constantly running from out of the frying pan into the fire, right? Just constantly saving the world because something is all right. And it can be really, really fun, but I need to be in a specific mood to think, like, oh, I want that right now. And as soon as I don't feel like in that specific mood, I don't want to watch the show. The show is not appealing. So what you want to do is emotionally go through peaks and troughs. You want to set up tension in the story. What's going to happen? Big stakes. I don't know. Like, I'm eager to find out how this resolves, and then resolve it and go and see, like, it was happy, it was sad, whatever it was. Give us a paragraph of reaction, of relative calm, of lack of tension. before building up the tension again. And in your story and in your conversation, this is why I think that like that talkback radio that's just people screaming at politicians constantly, even if I cared about politics enough to know, like, I need to know what everybody's saying all the time, that platform doesn't work for me. It is like doing homework. It is tiring. I'm not interested. I'm not into it. So while editing, check not only the timing of like how you're pacing out beats of your story, but also, again, when you listen as an editor, you're listening as, I've never heard this before. What's my experience of this? And if it's, look, I'm feeling like this is just too tense, then edit. Either break it up with, you could, if you want, if the story is full of tension, you can break it up with music. You can break it up with some other vibe, just to make sure that the listener is not constantly bored, the listener is not constantly tense, the listener is not constantly, I don't know, happy in love, whatever it is. Just give us a balance, give us a constant back and forth. Any questions on that? Yes, please, Susan. You're on mute. There you go.
Okay. I'm a passionate person, and so therefore my passion, gets across. But I've also been told, don't be over enthusiastic. So is there, an emotional balance where you can get across your passion, but, in a way that you don't sound like you're overselling. Does that make sense?
As is demonstrated by my behavior, I don't know if I believe in the don't be over passionate approach.
Okay, good.
I think that like the things that I'm passionate about, if they're only, you should buy my book, okay, that gets old very quickly. But the stuff that I'm passionate about is the information itself. When I talk about storytelling, I get involved. And like the way I did just now, and also I remember doing a few minutes ago, it's important to also give a balance in terms of tone. And so right now I am very excited and passionate about podcasts and storytelling, but I needed to take a break. I needed to take a breath. I needed to like lower my voice register and calm down and bring it down to ensure that your brain is still engaged by what I'm saying. And also so I personally don't get worn out by like performing too much. I don't know if I believe in like taming your passion. If you're passionate about something, then cool. But keep in mind that your audience is not as passionate about it as you are. And so I don't know if you want to keep a timer to say like, look, every 5 minutes I need to take a breath and I need to just, I don't know, literally speak slower and speak lower. But do weave in and out.
Okay, thanks.
I think also the issue of passion is that people, we talk about USP and what makes us different. So you can have 2 or 3 people giving across the same content, but it comes across totally different because of their personalities and because of their passion. And that's one of the things I believe that also makes you special, Zev, is because you're super passionate and because you put it across in such an exciting and a different way. And we see that you love what you're doing. So I think the passion is very, very important. And people will listen to your podcast over, say, someone else's, not only because of the content, because of you and your passion.
Agreed wholeheartedly. I will say something to keep in mind, especially when you're passionate about something, is I used to be a technical writer. I got an engineering degree and I didn't like engineering, so I just devoted all my time to writing documents about how engineering things worked, manuals, etc. And so in technical writing, there's this term known as like the cone of knowledge, or like wow, I've forgotten the term. That's not a good sign. In any case, the more you know about something, the harder it is for you to relate to someone who doesn't know anything about it, right? And that is in terms of jargon, right? So I was an engineer, so I can talk about the difference between motors and servos. Servos are a type of motor, right? The fact that I know to slow down and tell you the sentence, servos are a type of motor, that brings you up to where I'm at. But it's hard. When you are passionate and you know a lot about something, it's easy for you to forget what it's like to hear it for the first time. So hand in hand with the way you deliver, the passion in which you communicate, those moments of slowing down, taking a breath, speaking slower also mean take a moment to like speak to the ABCs, right? So the way that it was represented to me is like, I am a subject matter expert. I know a lot about something. On the alphabet, I'm like a Y or an X. Amazing. But I'm speaking to A, B's, and C's. And so I need to make sure to speak their language and to meet them where they are, both in terms of passion and in terms of explanation and in terms of like words I use.
I have a question.
We have a question, Freddie.
Please.
Okay, so this question may be totally off topic, and Lesley, if it is, please tell me, maybe it's for the next session. But I'm still trying to focus in on partly this call to action business, okay?
Great.
And also, I feel that certainly in the crowd I'm in here, I feel that the other podcasters, you all have much more defined focus here. Okay. Daniela, you want to make shidduchim, you want to set up couples, very simple. Susan, you want to save marriages. You did, I forgot what you do, but whatever it was, it was
Jewish book publishing.
Authors.
okay.
Yes.
Lesley wants to save the state of Israel. Everybody's like has a
And the people.
and the people much more defined. Okay. I started this podcast for two reasons. Number one, to expand my brand, and number
Great.
two, to have an outlet for my big mouth. Okay.
Great.
I wanted a place to just be able to express my feelings. And as a kid, I always wanted to be, excuse me for getting political, the Rush Limbaugh of radio.
Great.
I wanted to be able to just talk and talk and talk for 3 hours and people would listen. That didn't happen. So a podcast gave me this outlet. Okay.
Didn't happen yet.
My most recent episode, I had an episode, and one of my loyal listeners, who happens to be 75 years old in Boca Raton, she said, this message has to get out to young people. And she offered to send it out to her WhatsApp list of 700 people. Great. Okay.
Amazing. Yes.
My podcast is growing, but I have no personal call to action. I have a couple of books, but I don't know where I'm going with this. And I want to sort of, if you can help me zoom in a little bit and figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Absolutely. Firstly, I want to, Daniela, you were muted, but I'm pretty sure I read your lips saying it's not simple. It's not simple enough. I want to point that out.
It's not simple, but
I want to point that out. Freddie, I want to say you started this to expand your brand. Your brand meaning like you want more clients, or you want to be famous. Like that's a viable response.
More clients, but I feel that this podcast is going out to the Amcha, and my clients are more of the Fortune 500 kind of people.
Great.
So, I'm loving the podcast, and it's really my passion, but I don't know that it's helping me actually make any money,
Right. Okay, cool. So a couple of things. Firstly, the call to action can be just ways to stay engaged. follow me on social media, sign up for my newsletter, uh, check out my books, like whatever. It doesn't have to be like you can be in between projects and still be engaged in a call to action. I love the idea that your listeners are sharing their episodes with who they think needs to hear it. That's amazing. And I think that that's a decent call to action. Like, remember to share this with 3 people that you think can benefit from it. That's a decent call to action. It keeps people engaged, gives them something to do, again, which speaks to their identity. I am a person who shared this podcast with X because they need to know X. Your call to action can be, if you're looking for Fortune 500 clients, your call to action can be check out our website and kind of like book a consultation or whatever it is. It sounds like my writing for Israeli Jewish nerds and getting feedback from or being consumed by American non-Jewish nerds. It sounds like the Amcha that is responding or listening are showing up faster than the S&P 500 listeners. So amazing. So it's worthwhile to give them something to make a call for action specifically for them. So if it's not book a consultation and pay me $1 million, it can be like, I don't know, read my blog post about how to get there. Again, who's your audience and what do they want? So everybody sees themselves as one day working towards being rich enough to be, to be on the stock exchange or kind of have a publicly traded company or whatever it is. So the action item can be like, this is my vision for you is like how to get there. So start the process. Your action item can be make sure you follow, make sure you download. Because of how the platforms work, I wouldn't recommend this because I think I don't know, I don't like how it makes me feel. But there are content creators who say, if you really want to support us, hit play twice. Listen to this episode and then hit play on it again and go do something else so that the algorithm sees my content is doing twice as good as it actually is. Like, I don't love that, but it's valid. If you're creating a personal relationship with your listeners, just give them anything to do that solidifies your relationship with them and gets them closer to what they want. And that speaks to their identity. They're like actively engaging in your product or in your personality, in your brand. I will say that the action item doesn't need to be the same every week. In between projects, you can go back to make sure you subscribe or leave a comment. Leave a comment and like is like the default action item because there's always something to do and it always helps. If you're building up to a specific webinar or thing you can advertise, sure, it can go in that direction. But as long as people are doing something, that's all the action item needs to be. Does that help? Or is that not exactly what you're looking to hear?
It definitely helps because obviously what you're saying is the important thing is that the listener takes some sort of action.
Yeah.
Even just first of all, even just listening to the podcast, they're taking an action and doing that, and trying in some way sort of upsell them to do one more thing, which may
Yep.
even be as simple as click on like. For some reason, it's even people who like the podcast and listen every week, they never actually click on like.
Correct.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Thank you.
Wholeheartedly. Yeah, I've
I think
clocked.
we should move forward, Zev, so we have time to cover everything,
I was about to say I've
including
clocked the
AI
time.
tools as well. And
No
we can
problem.
continue this conversation if we have time afterwards.
Okay, so I'm actually going to jump past common editing mistakes because they're just the opposite of everything I just said, right? There are really clear examples of people leaving in stories that are too boring or leaving in jokes that happen in the in the studio or in the conversation because they're interesting but they're not relevant. So they're kind of it's basic. I'm going to pass through that. Okay, let's talk about AI tools for editing. I'm actually going to talk about editing. I was going to show you two tools. I'm going to show you the second tool first. The tool I want to show you is called Riverside. I believe you're already familiar with Riverside, and you're kind of parv about it.
No,
Oh, great.
there are certain things that I like about it very much. There's one thing that I would change, but it's good. Very good.
Terrific. So we're here. I'm going to share my sound, and I'm actually going to put headphones in so that you don't get my sound through my microphone from the computer. Okay. You can all see my
Yeah, the screen, the video there, yeah.
terrific. This is a website called Riverside. You need to access it on Chrome. I think my camera has just shorted out, and we will worry about that another time. Okay, I want to walk you through how to use this. So the first thing is you can use Riverside basically like Zoom. Okay, it's a way to have communications. It was a way to have a conversation online. However, the benefit of this is that the recording quality is higher because instead of recording on a cloud, it records on each computer. You don't need to worry about the technicalities of it right now. I want to show you what it can do. So the first thing is, like Zoom, you can schedule. And this is basically, I'll click plus a new up here. I'll schedule a session. This is basically a Zoom invite. This is a test. I put in a date, a time, people to email, I'll email the guests, etc. And I can schedule a conversation that when it happens here, I'll have the ability to, beautiful. I'll click create session down here. And during this, I have the ability, much the same as Zoom, to record the conversation. Once it's recorded, I'll go back here to Riverside and go to what's called projects. So I can either use, just click on any of my recordings, or what I can do is upload something. Now this, I had on my computer a Zoom recording from a morning work meeting last year or however many years ago. And so I just uploaded the Zoom recording. Is everybody with me so far? I know that.
Yeah, I just don't see where you record. You use it like with Zoom, you're saying. So where's the recording?
Right. So basically, if I were to here, let's go to home and start a new. You know what? I don't know if I'll be able to do this, but see down here, it says Open Studio. I'll click that. Or I tell you what, even easier. I can always just hit the record button on that. But let's see. Okay, so here I would join. Now my camera is off because Zoom is using my camera. But oh, I take that back. Zoom's not using this camera, so it's using this camera. I click join. And down here is record. So I would invite somebody else and they would be here. And I would hit record. And then it'd be on this platform online. Okay? Let's assume that I've done that, and we'll go back to projects where everything that I've recorded is waiting for me, or I have the ability to upload a video that I shot on my phone, or a video that, again, is, let's say I had a Zoom, but I want to edit it on Riverside. I can create new projects on this side of the site. Okay, so here are my Riverside, recent Riverside calls, recordings, and here is the test that I uploaded last night of a Zoom call that we recorded ages ago.
While it's uploading, I know of someone that used to use Riverside, and the volume and the sound just was not clear, and then moved back to Zoom. Have you heard of stories like that?
Riverside has been doing amazing things very recently in the past year or so, and I want to talk to you. That is now basically solved. I never think Zoom was better than Riverside, because the whole point of Zoom is that it records through your computer microphone based on your internet connection, and Riverside records through your computer microphone not based on your internet connection. It's a lot easier to work like that. But so here is my recording. Now it automatically. This was a single file, right? This was a single video, but it breaks down how many speakers there are by listening to the differences in their voices. And I click here, edit. And this is everything that I've been talking about the ease of editing and how AI is a very kind of approachable tool. It's on this page. I'm really excited.
By the way, Zev, I'm not sure if you mentioned, but from what I understand, it's actually an Israeli-made software.
Interesting. I know they have offices here. I wasn't aware that it's Riverside is Israeli.
Okay.
No, but I have a bunch of friends that work at Riverside, and no, it's very, very exciting. Okay. Now, I uploaded a single file and I told it there are 4 people in this conversation. It separated the audio file, as you can see, based on the sound of our different voices. It also, right here, made a transcript of our entire conversation, right? So I put my cursor in these words wherever I want. Let's start just before good morning. And I'm going to hit spacebar. You should be able to hear it. Please let me know if you can't. Good morning, everybody. Skylar has T-minus 10 minutes. Did you hear that?
Yep, we heard it.
Amazing. So I hit spacebar to play or pause. Wherever my cursor is, you see under minutes is currently purple. There's a purple line, I should say. That's where my cursor is in the text. So there are a bunch of amazing tools to use here. The first thing that I'll do is I want you to listen to the quality of my own voice, or even less. So a very good morning. Quick updates is that yesterday we got heaps of ums and ers. The quality sounds like a standard Zoom call, I would argue. Over here on the right, I'm going to click AI tools.
By the way, can you, maybe this is what you're going to be talking about now. If you take out the "as" and any wording here now, so it'll take it out of the actual recording already in Riverside without having to use an outside platform?
Correct. What I'm suggesting is you use Riverside and you don't use another platform. Riverside has the ability.
Everything in one platform.
Correct.
And
Now,
how are you taking out the ums?
excellent question. So you can do it manually. Obviously, I can select, see this strange squiggle is how Riverside represents ums and ers. But on the right here, I click AI tools, and there are these options here. I want to remove pauses, and it says underneath, cut 328 pauses. I'll just hit apply, and it'll do that for me. And underneath it says remove filler words, right? And I have the ability here to say, like, well, do you want to remove 100% of them? That might not sound so natural. Do you want to remove less of them? Do I want to revert to the original? But no, I'll keep it as 100%. And I will keep that. Underneath it says remove filler words, which are my ums and ers. Again, I'll hit apply. It'll do that for a moment. Now, underneath here, what it's saying is there are 3 different options in terms of removing my ums and ers, my filler words. The first is to cut them out and to just make me go from sentence, 1 to sentence 2. But I just did it. But that can make it sound edited. It can be noticeable because that's not the timing of natural speech. So another thing I could do is whenever there's an or just mute that microphone, right? So those are 2 options. And the third option is what's called smart, where it kind of balances the first 2 options and decides for you. So I'm going to keep it smart. Now, you can already see all of these vertical lines across these 4 tracks that I have down here. My episode has already started to be cut. So now I'm going to go back to good morning. And you can also see in the text, my ums and ers have been cut. Good morning, everybody. Skylar has T-minus 10 minutes or even less. So a very good morning. Quick updates is that yesterday we got Yoshimoshi to Seller. He already... Okay, we're talking about 2 clicks. Done.
Incredible.
We're not even done yet. Check this out. All right.
And this is where you can also correct spelling, right? That you have
absolutely.
to go through. Do you have to go through the whole thing? Like if it's a name that's mentioned more than once, or is there also something on the right that you can just do it in 1 click?
I have only seen correcting each one individually.
Right? So you have to literally go through the whole podcast in order to correct them.
Now, there are ways, if you don't want to, there are other ways to do this, right? What I could do is download the whole transcript and then put it on Google Docs. And in Google Docs, you can find and replace. And so every time it says, see over here, it says SVI for Zvi Letterman. That's not how he spells his name. He spells his name with a Z. So in Google Docs, I can find and replace SVI space as a name and replace all again in a single click. But that does mean kind of taking the text from here and moving it somewhere else.
And how do you switch the text between the speakers? Like right now you're on the top speaker, right?
Yes, right. And
So
so
how do you get to speaker 2 or 3?
Are you saying if there's some text over here that I want to be in the voice of text of speaker number 2, or are you saying how do I just get later on in the piece?
Edit another speaker. Oh, I see. It says up there speaker 2.
Right. So what I'm doing here is this line is kind of like my cursor. It's where we're at in the podcast. And so up the top here is the timeline. And I will click somewhere in the timeline that is where I want to be. I can zoom in to see what I haven't said and what I feel like most people just get intuitively is the visual like representation of the sound waves represent volume. So I know that like I'm speaker 0 because I'm the first person to speak. This is all me, and I can see if I want to go to a specific point, I can see like, oh, here is that place where I took that breath, or this loud noise is when I dropped that book, or whatever it is. So I can navigate around it either on the using the tracks, using the audio tracks down here, or I can scroll down and again just put my cursor. I can double click a word over here, and my cursor on the sound wave files will move as well. Right? This is why it's so powerful. You don't need to engage with the audio wave files, and actually you can hide them if you want by clicking that. Right? Right now, I just have the text. I like the sound waves, but it's not a necessity.
Zev, one thing I've noticed while using Riverside is that it, in theory, it allows you to upload and use a virtual background, which
Interesting.
for me is really essential because I work from home. I don't have a studio and
Right.
whatever, lighting. But what I've noticed is that the light, first of all, to use a virtual background, it seems to me like you need to have a certain software, or like your computer needs to have a certain strength. I don't know what it's called, but it doesn't allow me to, like, it drops the background. And so the lighting on Riverside is not as good as on Zoom. When I go into Zoom, the lighting now is so much better, and the virtual background is also better.
Great.
So do you know anything about using the virtual backgrounds here?
I don't. I've never had an issue with using the virtual backgrounds on Riverside. I'd be happy if you want to like after this session for the two of us to like chat about it to work out if it's a computer issue or a lighting issue or whatever it is. But if the thing that works best for you is to record on Zoom and then upload to Riverside, which is exactly what this like example is, great. Record on Zoom.
I have done that. The
Right.
downside to that is that Zoom, from at least what I can see, does not have the teleprompter capability that Riverside has.
In terms of during the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility. So I'm happy to
So I love this
sit with you
teleprompter.
afterwards. Yeah.
It's so great,
Yeah.
but Zoom doesn't have that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's you and I sit about the technical issue with the backgrounds.
I have a question, Zev, regarding
Please.
this as well. For
Please.
someone that has a paid Zoom plan, because
Yes.
we use it often and we need a paid Zoom plan.
Yes.
Riverside, I understand there's also a free plan as well as a paid plan.
Correct.
And yes, apparently the differences are in terms of quality of what you can get, and
Yep.
also the amount of AI tools that you can receive. So what
Interesting.
you've just shown now, I'm assuming, is in the paid plan.
We have the paid plan, yes.
You have the paid
for
plan,
instance,
right? Makes sense. So I'm wondering, because if it's worthwhile for someone and for small business owners to have also a paid Zoom plan as well as a paid Riverside plan, if that's necessary, and will these tools like what you just showed us now be available? Are they available also? I guess we can check that with AI, also on the paid plan, on the free plan.
I don't know if these tools are available for free as well. I do know that Zoom doesn't seem to be heading in the direction that Riverside is, that it wants to be record, edit, publish, one platform. Zoom isn't going
Right, because
there.
they're more for meetings.
Right. So, like I understand that Zoom is the default, and would recommend where possible, if it's financially viable, then yeah, having Riverside as well.
Sorry.
Please.
question. Is Riverside also, you just mentioned publish also. They publish to the platforms, to YouTube, to Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
There is a way to do this. Clicking share up here allows me to export. And so from the export, I can either download as an MP3 or an MP4, sorry, a video, and then upload to wherever I want. But I do believe there's integration involved. It's something, again, I'm happy to get stuck into
with the Pro, it's like with an upgraded version.
Gotcha.
Yes, because someone told me about Buzzsprout. That's to help the integration. But then would that be like worth doing both, or this can actually do what Buzzsprout does?
It's trying to negate the need for Buzzsprout.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I know we're almost at the end, and I would like that if there are other tools that you want to mention that we have.
Yes, please. I'm so excited. We're even on this AI tools list. I want to cover a few more things. The first is, remember the audio quality, right? It was a Zoom call. I was, speaking, my face wasn't towards the camera, and it sounded however it sounded. I'll click Magic Audio, right, which enhances the quality. Now, I hope that we'll have time to, amazing. It looks like it's already done it. And again, let's go right back and hear the same thing over and over again.
And we're not hearing right now.
No, I haven't pressed play yet. Sorry.
Recording is in progress. Good morning, everybody. Skylar has T-minus 10 minutes or even less. So we're very
amazing. I want to play that exact bit twice. That was enhanced, and this is not enhanced. As soon as it agrees. Basically, it's a lot better. If we're short on time, I won't bore you with the side-by-side example, but it's amazing. It cleans up the quality of your audio. It cleans up the volume of your audio. It's really, really strong. Now, in terms of editing, there are a few really, really cool things. The first is I want to take out this whole paragraph. So I select it, I click bin, and it deletes it for me. So I put my cursor at the beginning, and let's see what we hear. Amazing.
that he'll hear it and be like, this is Dope Souls. And
right, it jumps straight to the rest. Now, we spoke a little bit before about journalistic principles and your responsibility. I want to show you a tool that is here that is amazing and is also extremely scary, so use with caution. This is Yoshi. Yoshi is somebody who was a producer at the time, and he had a question. So this is what he says.
Yes, my question is, so as you all know, I've been trying to get Amir's sister to talk for some months now.
Right, he's talking about an interviewee, and he would like to talk to his sister. I'm going to select this word, months, and I'm going to click video dub, and I'm going to change it to sandwiches. And I will hit enter. And it is, I mean, hopefully I'll move on because the dubbing does take a little bit of time, but the AI clones his voice and changes it and makes him say the thing that I want him to say. Now, the tool is very, very useful when somebody misspeaks, when somebody says something and you're just looking for a connecting sentence that they kind of use their actions to convey instead of their words. But for podcasting, you really need that connecting sentence. through Riverside, you can clone their voice and make them say the words that you need them to say. And obviously, journalistically, this is a nightmare. Again, if you feel comfortable pressing play with the person sitting next to you, that's the sign. Amazing. It looks like we have finished dubbing, so let's hear what he has to say.
Yes, my question is, so as you all know, I've been trying to get Amir's sister to talk for some sandwiches now, and she has been reluctant.
I mean, come on. Come on. Right. What are we even doing? Okay, I'll calm down about that.
And that's good for visual and audio, correct? Even
Yes.
if it's a visual, it looks like they're saying that word.
Exactly. Video dubbing, like this wasn't a case where each person had their individual video, but it creates it with AI, and so it looks like the person.
That's crazy. And what do you press to do that?
So I select a word, and then up above the word is an option called video dub.
I guess that's an ethical issue too, right?
Oh my God.
To do that.
It is bonkers. I will say, in Israel's story, especially in episodes where we try and have what we call a non-narrated episode, is where we do an interview and try and take the interviewer completely out of the picture. This type of thing comes in very handy just to like get them to, say the right form of the sentence so you don't need to hear the question or whatever it is. It's very, very handy. It's extremely powerful. It's extremely dangerous. It's wild. This is the world we're living in.
Right. It definitely makes us wonder whether we can trust what we hear on the air, right?
Yes.
And I have seen things written about that somebody says this was AI, this was not the person that said that.
Yes. Okay, so
anything else in Riverside you wanted to show us, or is there something else you wanted to show us too?
The last thing I wanted to show on Riverside is magic clips, and that is you either, again, record the whole conversation or upload a recording that you have, and it will, again, using AI, say, this 60 seconds, that is what you need to put on social media. So I'm going to click over to Made for You. And the first thing that it does is say, like, we used AI to edit the whole episode. And also here are a bunch of clips that you would post on social media. Now, the clips that it makes, this, I'm like glad we had the opportunity to see this, because if this ever loads, you'll see that all the things that I was talking about in editing, in what to think before recording, these clips sound like what, to me, 90% of podcasts sound like. And I don't know who on earth would want to listen to more of this. Okay. So here is a 47-second clip of something that was said during this meeting. I'll click play to listen to it. And it's not loading. Okay. If it doesn't load, the creators of the show made a decision that was not necessary, that didn't affect the plot, that made me concerned about a character who's not a character in the show. You know how sometimes, like, see, this is why I started getting...
Yeah, you're freezing a little bit, Sid. Your
yes,
sound has gone off.
Besides the point that the freezing besides the point, that conversation was clearly a conversation between friends that wasn't articulated well and wasn't edited well. And so when Riverside, when the AI says, here, you're talking about a Marvel movie, that's going to get clicks, here it is, you listen to that bit of the conversation and it excludes the listener because it's a bunch of in-jokes. It's not particularly helpful. All of the problems with AI are currently revealed through this very, very helpful tool. So I would, if using Riverside and clicking, okay, you make some clips for me, listen to each one and decide basically for yourself of the 10 that it creates. Maybe there's one or two that I feel comfortable uploading because it is directed at an audience that is that it gives them actual information, and it makes us look good. It is relevant. And also, a lot of this would be solved by all of our prep work in like how to have the conversation to begin with, to avoid all of these in jokes and make sure that everything that is on the podcast is being is serving the purpose of the brand identity and our audience and what they're looking for and our unique voice, etc.
Great. As we're short of time, we're coming to an end, and people have other commitments, I understand. Are there any names of different tools or things that you just like to share with us without going into detail that you recommend that we can then check out ourselves?
Absolutely. So Opus Clip is a site that, again, you can upload a 50-minute podcast and it'll cut it into social bits. They're a bit better than Riverside, but again, it's all AI.
Opus as
it's
in
all improving.
OPUS.
OPUS CLIP. Amazing. Descript works very similar to Riverside in terms of making a transcript and then you changing the transcript or deleting the bits of the transcript and it doing the audio for you. I'll leave it at that. The last one I'll say is, I think I mentioned it before, 11 Labs. If you want an AI voice and not your own, AI voices are getting extremely realistic. Again, we're not there. We're about 75% of the way to sounding human. And 11 Labs allows you either to upload text and it will turn it into audio, or you can upload you saying something and it'll change it into the voice of your choice saying the same thing.
Right. And I think, is it correct to say 11 Labs, or maybe it's another tool, is also good for if you have some written text, whether it was an article or a blog or something that you want to turn into a podcast without you having to pre-record it?
Yeah, that's text to speech.
Did you say that's also here for 11 Labs? Or I'm sure there could be other tools too.
Yep.
So that it could be cool for someone who doesn't want to maybe go into podcast because it takes too much time, or for whatever reason, that they can actually use an existing content elsewhere to do this.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a quick question? If Opus Clips is better, why would I want to use Riverside?
Riverside is one-stop shop. You can record, you can edit, you can get your socials, you can export. Opus Clip doesn't allow you to do any of that. Opus Clip just does the, give me a 50-minute thing, I'll give you a 45-second thing that you can put on the internet.
Great. Thank you.
Right. I think like with most things, we all have a choice whether we want to do something in one platform, or whether we use one platform for everything, or whether we use one for recording, one for editing, one for whatever. And I think that's a lot about playing and trial by error to see what works best for us. You agree with that, Zev? Obviously, the time factor is a huge thing too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Final words, just your parting words for this session, if you could please just sum up.
I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, and appreciate everyone who has come with us so far. I'm excited to keep going on this journey. And absolutely, Judith said that the AI tools are scary and accessible. You're absolutely right. They're scary, they're accessible. Use with caution.
All right. Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you to Zeev and Liat behind this from Israel Story. I'm Lesley Kaplan, and we've been listening to this part 2 of our 3-part series in collaboration with the Israel Networking Hub. Next week is Purim, even though this is going to be evergreen, so we are not meeting. In 2 weeks' time, we will have part 3 with Liat, who will be talking about marketing and all the important elements that we want to know on how to get more viewers, how to get our stuff out there related to posts, etc. So make sure that you do join, and preferably live for that. Thank you again, Zev. You've been part of these 2 episodes, a very, very big part. Does somebody just want to mention the email address once again, if anyone has any questions?
Sure thing. That's contact@israelstory.org.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to Zev, to Liat, for all of you for joining, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.